DocTalk is brought to you by Multimin USA, manufacturers of Multimin 90, sure trace mineral supplementation by timed injection.
Hi there and welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and I'm sure glad you joined us today. We're going to have a fantastic show. Dr. Kevin Stafford, who is a professor of veterinary ethology from Massey University in New Zealand, is going to join us today, talk to us about New Zealand agriculture and some of the things he's doing with research. We're sure glad you joined us.
We started using Multimin about 4 years ago. We started out first in our own cow herd and our own replacement heifer program just to see how it worked, experiment with it. We don't like to put a new product out there with our clients unless we've tried it ourselves or there's a lot of data behind it that we like. We had really good results with it our first year, are happy with the way things worked. So we decided to start using our clients, and we have been now for 3 years, and I would say 90 to 95% of our clients use Multimin.
This segment is brought to you by Double D Family Mat Shop. Injured livestock could mean injured profits. Protect yours with no-slip mats from Double D Family Mat Shop.
Dr. Stafford,
It
is a pleasure to have you here, and great to have you visiting our campus at Kansas State University.
It's an honor to be here. I'm speaking today, and it's a great honor to be invited to Kansas from New Zealand to give this talk. I'm really stoked.
I think it has a lot to do with your career, with your perspective on a lot of different issues involving agriculture, but it is an honor for Kansas State to be able to honor you.
Thank you very much.
So,
thank you.
Let's get right down to it, and let's talk about New Zealand. I have, seen the pictures and the beautiful landscapes and the wonderful agriculture, and you get to live it every day.
I get to live it every day. New Zealand is a series of islands in the South Pacific, just 3,000 kilometers out from Australia. So it's out there in the deep blue, and it's interesting that in the OECD, it's probably the one country that depends for its existence on agriculture, on livestock agriculture. We depend on our milk and our beef and our lamb exports for something like 40% of our international earnings. So it's
Really?
a really big part of our lives.
So the legislatures and that are very keen to supporting agriculture.
Well, the legislature often, the government often has a very strong agricultural presence, and it sort of varies, of course, from decade to decade. Sometimes people think that, we're going to make a lot of money from IT or something else, but when the chips are down, we depend on food. Cows and sheep producing food for export internationally.
Wow.
That's what we live off.
So what are some of your, when you start to describe the agricultural scene, walk us through the beef and lamb markets.
We've three major products. The most important product is milk.
Okay.
So we have we've got 4 million people, we've got 5 million dairy cows. Right? And if you think that's interesting, we've got 30 million sheep. So we've got a lot more sheep than people. We've got about 4 million beef cattle. Milk is our primary product. Lamb and beef come after that, and wool comes after that.
Okay.
So that's the sort of level of importance. Our milk industry is growing because milk as a product is a very good product. You can turn it into milk powder, you can ship it anywhere cheaply, and it's just been more profitable to farm dairy cows for the last 10 years than sheep or beef. So the dairy industry has sort of expanded, and the sheep industry has contracted. So we've gone from 70 million sheep down to 30 in the last 20 years. There are economic reasons for this, but there's also agricultural reasons for it. Our beef industry is reasonably static. We have about 4 million beef cattle. That includes everything. And our beef herd, the average beef herd is something like 50 cows.
Okay.
And we
That'd be similar to us.
Yeah, something like that, about 40, 50 cows. And we keep those cows basically as sort of lawnmowers to keep the grass mown down for our sheep. They're sort of, the cows basically work as lawn mowing machines, because you have to keep your sward short to maximize sheep utilization of it. Now, that's not to say that beef cattle aren't important, but they're one component of a sheep and beef farming sort of industry, right?
I think that those are great numbers, and understanding the cows and the sheep interacting together. When we come back from break, let's continue our discussion on this, on the New Zealand agriculture industry. Sure glad you're joining us, and we're sure glad you all watched us. We'll see you in a minute.
This segment was brought to you by Brute Cattle Equipment, makers of the Brute Stealth Hydraulic Chute. If the chute fits, swear by it. Visit our website for more information.
There's something wrong. His head is down. He's clearly stressed. He's worried sick about BRD. That's why there's prescription Zactran for BRD treatment and control in high-risk cattle. Get a rapid response plus 10-day treatment and control in a single dose, so you can stop worrying and get back to business. For use in cattle only, do not treat cattle within 35 days of slaughter. Because a discard time in milk has not been established, do not use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, or in calves to be processed for veal. The effects of Zactran on bovine reproductive performance, pregnancy, and lactation have not been determined. Don't worry yourself sick. Talk to your veterinarian about a real alternative for BRD treatment and control. Because it's critical, it's Zactran from Marielle, a leading animal health company.
Got cattle? Rotomix manufactures a complete line of energy-efficient rotary and vertical feed mixers for feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations. Our mixers are available with the patented Generation 2 staggered rotor, the industry standard for feeding wet rations that include wet distiller's grain. Made in the USA, Rotomix mixers are designed for feeding performance that American cattlemen and dairy producers have come to expect. Rotomix, proud to offer a better mix in less time using less fuel.
Be ready for breeding soundness exams with Neogen's new and improved ElectroJack 6. Features a new wireless design, improved waterproofing, and more power for quicker and easier collections. Its newly designed probe features a tapered angle for easier insertion, and new rubberized material adds durability. ElectroJack 6 can be used with rams, boars, and bulls of all sizes. To order or for more information, contact Neogen at 800-621-8829 or your local animal health distributor.
This segment is brought to you by your Beef Quality Assurance Program, BQA, building consumer trust through your commitment to quality. Learn more at bqa.org.
Hi there, and welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here at the College of Veterinary Medicine, joined by Dr. Kevin Stafford, who is a professor of veterinary ethology from Massey University in New Zealand. And it just intrigues me to think about industries in other countries, and your beef industry and lamb industries are booming, and so, you know, can you kind of walk us through and share with the viewers today how exactly does your beef industry work?
Well, our beef industry doesn't work in isolation. Our beef industry works closely related to our dairy industry and our sheep industry.
Okay.
So the beef cows, you know, Angus, Hereford cows, are usually held by sheep farmers, and they might have, we'll say, 3,000 or 4,000 ewes and probably 50 cows. They'll produce weaners. The weaners will be bought by farmers who will finish them, and they'll finish them off grass. Okay. We have no feedlotting situation at all of consequence. We have actually one large feedlot, and it sells specifically to the Japanese market. It's a specific product.
That high marbling.
Yeah, high marbling black cattle, yep. Right? But the bulk of our beef is finished off grass.
Okay.
We can serve grass in baleage and silage in the winter time, and that gets us through the winter period, and everything is finished basically off product grown on the farm.
Okay.
We don't use hardly any promotants of any sort, and only for very specific markets. And it's in a sense, it's a very simple and sort of basic industry. So we have sort of 4 classes of animals that we kill. We kill beef steers, yep. Which are like black steers or Hereford steers, heifers, and maybe about 500,000 steers a year, 250,000 to 300,000 beef heifers. We kill also about 500,000 bulls, which come from the dairy industry. These are Frisian Holstein bulls, and we take them from the dairy industry, and we don't castrate them, and we generally keep them until they're about 18 months, 2 years of age, and then kill them. They can be kept longer, but bulls get a little bit obstreperous after a couple of years of age, and they get more and more difficult to handle. So most of them are killed probably at 2 years of age. probably about 240 kgs slaughter weight. Most of that beef is sold to the US. We call it manufacturing beef, you probably call it ground beef, I don't know. Hamburger beef,
Yep.
yeah. It's very high quality beef in reality, but you're a market, we sell about 55-60% of our beef that we produce overall to the US.
Okay.
Another quarter to a third goes to Asia, goes to Korea, a little bit of Japan. I think the Chinese markets are opening up a bit. So we're selling, you know, we export 82-83% of the beef we produce.
Wow.
We eat only a small proportion.
And
of that.
almost all of it is produced on grass.
It's virtually all produced on grass. Yeah, it's the way we do it.
That's very interesting, very different from the way we produce beef in the U.S.
We couldn't afford to feed grain. It just
Right.
wouldn't make economic sense.
Because you'd have to bring the grain.
We'd have to
in.
bring it from Australia or Canada or the US to do it, and that
Yeah.
just doesn't make any sense to us.
Yeah, and we have, you know,
You've got grain,
abundance of
Yeah.
of grain.
and we have an abundance of like temperate climate, and good rainfall, and lots of grass.
You have lots and lots of grass,
Yeah.
and you have it year round.
Yeah, we have it year round. Grass
Yeah.
grows mostly 12 months of the year.
And a lot of times we don't.
That's right.
You know,
So you have to
that's
play to
simple.
your strength.
You bet.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty about the versatility of the ruminant animal.
It is. You can take the ruminant animal and put them under different growth situations, and they'll handle it.
Yep. And so when we come back from break, we'll continue our discussion and learn a little bit more about your research.
Thank you.
You're watching DocTalk, and we're sure glad you joined us.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Beef producers need a practical choice when antibiotic therapy is required. More than ever, they are reaching for non-prescription Noromycin 300 LA from Norbrook, specially formulated to produce sustained antibiotic blood levels up to 4 days in cattle. Noromycin 300 LA delivers economic, broad-spectrum disease management for pneumonia, shipping fever, pink eye, wound infections, and foot rot. See for yourself why Norbrook's Noromycin 300 LA is the practical choice for your herd.
America's ranchers and farmers have had a long-standing commitment to quality. And now the Checkoff-funded Beef Quality Assurance Program is working with you to improve our product for consumers. At bqa.org, you'll find an array of educational materials about BQA. You can also take our online course for BQA certification. BQA, it's a commitment to quality, it's a process for continuous improvement, and it's about doing the right thing.
Here in Dallas, we're proud that our vehicles use an advanced biofuel called biodiesel. It's made from renewable resources like soybean oil, canola oil, even recycled cooking oil. This year, biodiesel will displace almost 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. Our air is cleaner, our economy is stronger, and America's more energy independent. It's working here, it can work in your community. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
In a feedlot situation, we use multi-min on arrival basis. Maybe if they came in a little lighter weight, 550, 600 pounds. We use multi-min in high-stress cattle, high-risk cattle. We're looking for a better response to our vaccine. For some of the cattle that we're looking for when we use multi-min, they come in, maybe they look a little mineral deficient. They come from parts of the country that are lower in certain mineral. So we use it on those cattle, tends to make a big difference.
This segment is brought to you by Norbrook Laboratories, manufacturers of Noromycin LA, Normectin Plus, 1%, and Poron, the practical choice for your herd. Hi there, and welcome back to DocTalk. It's a pleasure to have joining me today on the show Dr. Kevin Stafford, who's a professor of veterinary ethology from Massey University, and you know, we share a common bond in our research interest and our academic interest in not only in agriculture but animal welfare and animal husbandry. And you know, what exactly in New Zealand? When we look at New Zealand, or when your issues or your definition of animal welfare, what do you think?
Well, New Zealand is a trading nation, so we sell most of our agricultural product. So we have to meet the requirements of the countries that buy our product. So from way back from the 1960s, animal welfare has been an issue to us, in that our slaughter plants, our killing plants, have had to meet European and North American standards. Often when the European importing countries didn't meet those standards themselves.
Right.
So we've always been basically in front of the game as far as our slaughterhouse welfare is concerned, because of the trade issues involved. If we didn't meet the standards, they stopped buying our beef or our lamb. So we had to meet those standards. So we're very sensitive to what the countries that buy meat and milk products off us want. And so we've been, for the last 20 years, we've been watching very carefully what happens in Europe. We've been watching very carefully what happens in North America. Now, the Europeans to some extent have led the game as far as making regulations and as far as demanding QA programs are concerned.
Like animal welfare law.
Animal welfare law. But I think everybody else has. We've kept up with them, and I think the US is keeping up with them now as well. There's two sort of focuses here. One is what government regulate, and the second focus, which is actually probably more important, is what the retailer in the middle, the manufacturer in the middle demands for his or her clients or for their clients. And so we're, as a farmer, and I'm a sheep farmer, I'm impacted upon by what government regulates, but I'm also impacted upon by what the company that buys my lambs regulates. And they have QA programs to say that my farming system has to meet the demands of actually a company based in Europe. So I'm on the pressure to meet those requirements.
So you have law, animal welfare law, or animal health code law, and then but you also have a set of guidelines by the person who's going to buy the sheep from you or buy that lamb product.
Absolutely. So I have to meet their standards.
Yeah, if you want to sell to them.
If I want to sell to them. That doesn't necessarily do anything for the price I get. My price still depends upon very old-fashioned market forces, supply and demand. And from my perspective, actually, for the last 2 or 3 years, world lamb stocks have declined considerably. So lamb prices have increased. And the sort of emphasis upon QA packages then basically sort of slides a little bit. When there's a lot of lamb on the world market, then you probably feel a bit more squeezed with regard to QA programs and regulation. We're living in this real world. They can be pickier if there's more available. There happens to be less available at the moment, so they're probably less picky than they would have been maybe 5 years ago.
And so you're saying it doesn't really affect, it really, what you're saying in a nutshell, that these regulations or demands become a cost of doing business.
They're a cost of doing business. I see that as cost of doing business. There's a lot of talk about the customer paying more. I'm sort of waiting for that.
yeah, and I think that a lot of others are as well.
Yeah.
And I think this will be a great time for us to take a break, and when we come back, maybe discuss some of the markets and what you see coming down the road.
Will do.
It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you very
You're
much.
watching DocTalk, and we'll be back in a minute.
This segment is brought to you by Lalaman Animal Nutrition, dedicated to the development and production of natural and differential solutions for animal nutrition.
This is Agriculture Today from Kansas State University. Construction is underway now on the new $15 million Feed Technology Innovation Center at K-State. A major part of that state-of-the-art new facility will be the ultra-high-tech Feed Safety Research Center, the only one of its kind in the world. K-State grain scientist Leland McKinney.
It's a biosafety level 2 facility, and so this facility will allow us to use or inoculate feed, pet food with pathogens, and actually process it to see where the kill steps are during the processing, as well as chemical treatment and other things, so we can ensure that the feed is sterile when it goes out the door.
This is K-State Research and Extension.
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production.
Cow-calf, stocker, and feedlot producers know that effective parasite control improves overall herd performance and profitability. Norbrook offers a comprehensive, economical line of pour-on and injectable parasiticides for every livestock operation. Consult with your local animal health supplier to set up a program that protects your investment and brings larger cattle checks this fall. See for yourself why the Noromectin line from Norbrook is the practical choice for your herd.
Hi, I'm Kevin Ochsner, host of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman and Colorado Rancher. Join me each week as the National Cattlemen's Beef Association brings you the latest updates in industry information and market news. Plus, each week we provide important educational information and features on cattlemen from across the country just like you. And we can't forget our favorite cowboy poet, Baxter Black. Join me for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, debuting Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern, right here on RFD TV.
This segment is brought to you by Rotomix, manufactured in the USA and designed for feeding performance in the feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations. Hi there and welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here from Kansas State University with Dr. Kevin Stafford, and it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And we're discussing animal welfare, and you know, we see assessments out there and programs, and you know, what are your general thoughts?
Well, I think most industries, like beef industry or the lamb industry where I come from, we need actually one set of assessments, and that probably should come from the industry itself, and it should be, you know, reasonably easy and cheap to do. I think the more assessment programs we have, the more the water is basically muddied, and there'll be a lot of people competing, basically saying that their program is better than somebody else's program. This is going to cost for very little return, in my opinion,
and very little improvement in the welfare of the animals.
Very little improvement, and a lot of paperwork, and a lot of probably going nowhere really. Yeah. So
added cost.
Added cost. I would be inclined to. I think the industries, and I think industries worldwide are starting to think this way, that they have to have their own QA programs, and they'll live by them, and they'll use them as sort of development packages for their own industries to get up to particular standards and to stay there and to say we're quite happy with where we are.
But when we see, you know, legislation that comes in and removes gestation crates or things like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that people within that country are going to get pork from pigs just, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, in New Zealand we're going to have no more gestation crates after 2015 for our pig industry. It's a very small industry, but I think that basically will increase the price of pork production. We already import 50 to 60% of our pork from Canada and Australia. I think banning gestation crates will basically probably almost kill off our pork industry. Because the cost, and because the consumer will not pay that extra cost. They will actually choose the cheaper pork coming from Australia.
Sure.
And we've seen this before. We've seen this in the UK, where they banned gestation crates a decade ago or more now, and their pig industry basically took a hiding because within the EU they had to. It's free movement of food, so they had to import, or they imported bacon and pork from Denmark, where they still had gestation crates.
And so it's cheaper.
It was cheaper, and the consumer did not lift basically and say, right, we will pay for this increase in pork prices. And I think those are examples which suggest to me that the consumer, like all of us, would really like animals to be managed in as good as conditions as possible, and will say that in any survey you ever carry out. But whether we're willing to pay for it is another question. And I remain, maybe I'm too old and sort of, you know, twisted or something, but I remain to be convinced that the majority of consumers will pay more for animal product produced on their high welfare sort of production systems. I'm still to be convinced of this.
So we're headed towards, you know, having multiple programs, towards one managed by government probably, or.
Yeah, or industry better.
Industry?
Yeah, I prefer industry.
So would I.
Because I think industry knows the business and they're, you know, better set to do it.
Well, it's been a joy to have you on the show, and as always, good to have some time to spend with you.
Okay.
We appreciate you watching DocTalk as well. Remember, if you want to know what I do here at the College of Veterinary Medicine, you can find me on the web at www.vet.ksu.edu. Remember, always work with your local practitioner. You've been watching DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here from the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and I'll see y'all down the road. Abortions in cows can decimate your herd and cause economic strife. Join me next week as I'm going to discuss abortions in cows with Dr. Greg Hanslachek, who is the Director of Production Animal Field Investigations at Kansas State's Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. He works with practitioners on complex herd health problems. We'll be discussing the prevention, causes, diagnosis, and treatment of abortions in cows. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. Join me here Monday afternoons on RFD TV, and I'll see you down the road.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com. DocTalk was brought to you by Multimin USA, manufacturers of Multimin 90, sure trace mineral supplementation by timed injection.
The Kansas State University cow-calf herd has to be run as a business. We have to have positive cash flow in order to exist, so treatment costs are important to us. Multimin 90 was applied to the cows 107 days before the first predicted calving date, and then again approximately 30 days before the anticipated start of the breeding season. In our study, treatment costs with Multimin 90 costs an additional $6.40 per cow. That included both injections. Now, a question a producer might ask is, how much extra performance on a cow or a calf do I need to capture to pay for that $6.40? Well, historically, the value of gain in a calf has been worth right around 65 cents a pound. If a calf is born approximately 5 days earlier, it will be 10 pounds heavier at weaning time. Now, in our study, with the shift in calving distribution that we saw farther forward in the season, in other words, we had a greater proportion of calves born early in the season and treated females as opposed to untreated females, we would have more than captured the value of the product that we applied. In our study, 77% of the treated females gave birth in the first 20 days of the calving season. Untreated females, only 64% of the animals gave birth in the first 20 days of the season. In other words, we had 13% more calves born early in the season. The opportunity for them to be heavier at weaning was greater among the treated females, simply because those calves were older. Their mothers conceived earlier, they gave birth earlier. For every day that a calf spends suckling its mother, it's going to gain about 2.2 pounds. In causing those calves to be born earlier in the year, they would have had greater opportunity to accrue body weight prior to weaning time.